My girlfriend said, "You're not their dad, stay out of parenting." So I stopped helping with her kids and walked away for good. Now she's furious. Hello Reddit I plus here. My name is Marcus Bell, I'm 37 years old, and for the last 3 years I've been in a relationship with a woman named Danielle Reyes, who's 35. When we first met, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. Danielle had this fiery, determined energy. She wasn't one of those people who coasted through life. She'd been through hard times, and it showed, but she carried herself with pride. I admired that. She was beautiful, funny in a dry, sarcastic way, and she had a knack for making everyone around her feel like they belonged. Danielle also had 2 kids from a previous relationship, a boy, Evan, 11, and a girl, Lila, 9. From day one, she made it clear that her children were her top priority, and I respected that. I didn't walk into the relationship thinking I'm going to be their dad, but I also didn't run from the responsibility of being involved in their lives. Back then, I was working as a network systems analyst for a logistics company, mostly in Phoenix. The pay was solid, and when the pandemic shifted everything, I transitioned into full-time remote work. It gave me flexibility, which felt like a blessing at the time. Danielle was working front desk jobs, hotel receptionist, office assistant, that kind of thing. Nothing stable. She was constantly stressing about making ends meet, so when she floated the idea of going back to college to finally finish her degree, I encouraged her. I thought it was smart. She deserved a real career, not just paycheck-to-paycheck survival. She suggested relocating to Oregon, where her cousin lived. Cheaper rent, slower lifestyle, family nearby, she said. I hesitated. Moving away from my friends, my parents, the life I had built. But in the end, I agreed. Love makes you take leaps. We packed everything we owned into a U-Haul and moved into a modest 3-bedroom rental outside Salem. 1 room for us, 1 for the kids, and 1 that Danielle swore would be her study and home office. That 3rd room was part of the pitch, her little sanctuary where she could focus on school without distractions. Rent wasn't cheap, $1,650 a month, but I had savings, and I was still pulling in good money remotely. I figured we'd scrape by until she got her footing. For the first several months, I covered everything: rent, utilities, groceries, car insurance, even the kids' back-to-school shopping. Danielle didn't contribute much, but I brushed it off because she was supposed to be focused on school. I told myself it was temporary. Then, out of nowhere, she quit college after 1 semester. No big fight, no academic disaster. She just walked into the living room one night and said, "I don't think school is right for me right now." That hit me harder than I admitted. Suddenly, that expensive 3rd bedroom was just a graveyard for unopened textbooks. And Danielle, she picked up a part-time receptionist job, 20 hours a week at a dental clinic. Her paycheck barely covered groceries and the rest was still on me. Fast forward, and I found myself playing an unofficial stepdad role more than I ever imagined. I was the one shuttling the kids to dentist appointments, helping with math homework, mediating their arguments over the Xbox. I even taught Lila how to ride a bike. And I didn't resent the kids. They're good kids, but the responsibilities just fell on me, quietly. And Danielle, she started checking out. Dishes piled up, laundry sat untouched. I'd finish a 9-hour day behind a computer screen and come downstairs to chaos. Kids bickering, Danielle scrolling TikTok on the couch. The breaking point came one night at a local burger joint. Evan had gotten into trouble at school again for mouthing off to a teacher. Danielle brought it up at dinner, clearly frustrated. I chimed in gently with some ideas about discipline. Maybe a reward system. Maybe grounding him from his iPad. She cut me off mid-sentence, leaned across the table and said, "Marcus, you're not their dad. You don't get to make decisions about them. Leave the parenting to me." She said it loud enough that the kids heard. I sat there stunned. Not because she reminded me I wasn't their father, I know that, but because of how easily she dismissed everything I had been doing for her family. So I swallowed my pride, looked her dead in the eye and said, "If I'm not a parent, then maybe you should be paying rent for your kids' share of the apartment." I grabbed the napkin under my Coke and did the math right there. Rent was $1,650, 3 bedrooms. That's $550 per room. Her kids had their own. She and I shared one. That's $1,100 you and your kids are responsible for. I'll cover my share. Her face went red. She accused me of being insensitive, of treating her kids like some kind of burden with a price tag. I calmly told her, "I'm not charging for hugs or bedtime stories, but I'm also not going to bankroll a household where I'm excluded from parenting and decision-making. It doesn't work that way." The rest of the meal was miserable. The kids were confused, and Danielle refused to look me in the eye. The fallout. For the next week, the house turned into a cold war. Danielle went quiet, the dangerous kind of quiet, where she's waiting for me to apologize, but I didn't. I meant what I said. Then she dropped a bomb. She told me she'd talked to her best friend, Marissa, about our fight. Marissa apparently told her I was nickel and diming children, and that if I lived with a woman who had kids, I should man up and pay like a real dad. That line stuck with me. Pay like a real dad. I stood there, arms crossed, and told Danielle flat out, I didn't ask for kids. You didn't consult me when you moved them into my life full time. I stepped up because I cared. But you don't get to shut me out of decisions and then expect me to bankroll the entire household. That's not partnership. That's me being your ATM. She exploded, accused me of not understanding what it's like to be a single mother, of being judgmental, of proving why men can't be trusted around kids. That one cut deep. I've done nothing but love those kids. I've stayed up through their fevers, coached Evan through panic attacks, sat through every boring school recital. I wasn't trying to replace their dad, but I sure as hell acted like one when she needed me to, and now I was being treated like the enemy, the spreadsheet. That night, after another tense silence, I sat in the spare room, which had become my refuge, and made a spreadsheet. Not to be petty, but to show her reality. Rent, $1,650, utilities, $230, groceries, $500, gas, $180, internet, $90, kid expenses, field trips, birthdays, clothes, approximately $200, total monthly cost, $2,850. My contributions, about $2,500. Hers, maybe $350 on a good month. The next morning, I emailed it to her. When she saw it, she stormed into the kitchen and slammed her phone on the counter. Are you seriously invoicing me for my children? I calmly said. No, I'm showing you what I've been carrying alone. You need to see it in black and white. Something shifted in her then. Her anger cracked just a little. She went quiet. Not the icy quiet this time, but thoughtful. Later that day, I got a text from her. I applied for 2 full-time jobs today. I'll call my mom about helping with the kids. We need to talk this weekend, the talk. That Sunday, we finally sat at the kitchen table. No kids around. Just us. I explained that I didn't make the spreadsheet to shame her, but to stop silently resenting her. I told her that if she wanted me to act like a father figure, then I needed to actually be treated like a partner. Not just financially, but emotionally, and in decision-making. She admitted something I didn't expect. She had gotten comfortable leaning on me. She said after so many years struggling as a single mom, when she finally felt stable with me, she let herself check out without realizing it. She confessed she was embarrassed, even insecure, about how little she contributed. Then she admitted that when I brought up rent for the kids, it stung. Not because she thought I was wrong, but because it made her feel like her family wasn't really welcome in my life. Like they were baggage with a price tag. That was hard to hear. I told her I'd never resented her kids, but I also never signed up to carry the entire household while being shut out of authority. We made a plan. She accepted one of the full-time jobs, admin assistant at a medical office. Her mom agreed to help with childcare. We opened a joint account for household expenses, each contributing proportionally to our income. No more unspoken expectations. And we set a 6-month check-in date. Not to celebrate an anniversary, but to evaluate. Are we both showing up? Are the kids thriving? Are we still building together? So was I wrong to draw that line? Danielle and I are in a better place now, but part of me still wonders if I was cruel. I didn't mean to make her kids feel unwanted. I just wanted fairness. Because love alone doesn't pay the rent. For about 3 weeks after our big talk, things were better. Not perfect, not a fairy tale recovery, but better. Danielle started her new full-time job at the medical office. Her mom, Teresa, moved in temporarily to help with the kids. Suddenly, there was some structure in the house. The kids had homework done on time, actual bedtimes were enforced, and dinners didn't always come from a drive-through bag. It felt like progress. But progress isn't peace. See, Danielle could function when she had structure handed to her. A job with set hours. She showed up. A mom who swooped in to handle the kids. She breathed easier. But when it came to our relationship, the long-term vision, the hard conversations about money and roles, she still dodged. One Friday night, I came home from working late on a project. I expected to find the kids winding down for bed, Danielle watching her true crime shows, Teresa maybe reading a book. Instead, Danielle wasn't home. Teresa was in the kitchen making tea, and Evan and Lila were still awake, arguing over who got the last pudding cup. Where's your mom? I asked. Teresa gave me this tight, tired smile. She went out, said she needed a break, at 10:30 on a Friday night, without saying a word to me. When she finally stumbled in around 1 a.m., she smelled like vodka sodas and perfume. I asked her calm but firm where she'd been. She shrugged, tossed her purse on the counter, and said, "Out with Marissa. I needed a night to breathe." That one sentence was enough to start a fight that lasted for days. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: not all friends are friends of the relationship. Marissa had been in Danielle's ear since our rent argument. Every time Danielle felt insecure, every time she second-guessed herself, Marissa would swoop in with advice like gasoline on a fire. "You don't owe Marcus anything. He knew you had kids. Real men don't complain about money when it comes to family. If he loved you, he wouldn't be keeping spreadsheets." Danielle repeated these little poison pills to me almost word for word during arguments. It wasn't just her voice anymore. It was Marissa's too, and it drove me insane. I finally snapped one night and told her, "If you want this relationship to work, Marissa cannot be part of it. She's not here paying the bills. She's not here picking up after your kids. She's not in this house." Danielle accused me of trying to control her friendships. I told her I didn't care who she had brunch with. I cared that every fight we had sounded more like Marissa's voice than her own. Things escalated again one Saturday morning. I was in the kitchen making pancakes for the kids, and Danielle wandered in, hair a mess, clearly hungover. She grabbed coffee, sat down, and without preamble said, "I think you should just accept that this is a package deal. You live with me, you live with my kids. Stop expecting me to split rent like we're roommates." I set the spatula down and just looked at her. The kids were in the living room, so I kept my voice low. "Danielle, I've never once treated your kids like they're unwanted, but I will not bankroll this entire household while being told I don't have a say in anything. Either I'm part of this family, or I'm not." She stared at me, then said quietly, almost coldly, "Then maybe you're not." That one gutted me. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just finished making breakfast, served the kids, and went upstairs to the spare room, the room that by now had become my room. Later that day, Danielle's mom, Teresa, knocked on my door. She's not a warm woman by nature, practical, blunt, always a little sharp around the edges. But in that moment, she surprised me. "I heard what Danielle said this morning," she admitted. "And she's wrong." That floored me. Teresa had always defended her daughter fiercely, sometimes to a fault. Hearing her side with me felt surreal. She went on, "You've been carrying this household. I see it. The kids see it. Danielle doesn't because she's used to men disappointing her. She doesn't know what to do with someone who doesn't. But she's pushing you away, because if she admits how much she leans on you, she'll feel like she's failing." Then Teresa gave me this look, piercing, almost warning. "But Marcus, don't let her drag you down with her. If she doesn't step up soon, you'll resent her. And once that sets in, there's no going back." The following week, Danielle landed in another argument with Evan's teacher. He'd been skipping assignments and mouthing off again. She came home furious, slamming doors, muttering about how the school was targeting her son. I tried to help, offered to sit down with Evan and work on a homework routine. She snapped back, "Stay out of it, Marcus. You're not his father." That was it. That was the knife twist. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Then stop treating me like his father when the bills are due." The silence that followed was heavy. Even the kids froze. That night, I didn't sleep in the spare room. I checked into a hotel down the road, and for the first time since we moved in together, I seriously considered whether this relationship had reached its end. I checked into a cheap hotel the night I walked out. The kind with stiff sheets and thin walls, where you can hear someone's TV through the wall even with the volume down. It wasn't glamorous, but it was quiet. For the first time in months, I slept without interruption. No arguing downstairs. No footsteps outside the door of the spare room. No tension hanging in the air. Just silence. When I woke up, I stared at the popcorn ceiling and realized something that made my stomach sink. I was more at peace in a budget hotel room than in the home I was paying for. That wasn't how a partnership was supposed to feel. By noon, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Missed calls, texts, all from Danielle. "Where are you? You can't just leave like that. The kids are asking where you went." Then came the guilt. "If you loved us, you wouldn't walk away when things get hard. You're abandoning me just like everyone else has." That last one stung. Danielle had a history of men letting her down. Evan and Lila's dad vanished years ago. Some guy she dated after him stuck around for 6 months before ghosting. I knew walking out would press every bruise she had. But I couldn't go back, not until something changed. 2 days later, there was a knock on my hotel room door. I opened it to find Teresa, holding a grocery bag. She shoved it into my hands like she was delivering a package she didn't want. "Sandwiches and bottled water," she muttered. "You look like hell." I let her in. She sat on the edge of the bed, the same way Danielle had months earlier when she first told me she was quitting school. Only Teresa wasn't there to sugarcoat anything. "She's unraveling," she said flatly. "The kids are confused. I'm stretched thin, And Danielle's been crying more than she's sleeping. I rubbed my eyes. So now I'm supposed to swoop back in because she can't handle the consequences of her choices? Teresa gave me a long, heavy look. No, you're supposed to decide whether this is a relationship you can salvage or if you're done. But don't drag it out. The kids don't deserve to watch you two destroy each other slowly. That hit me like a punch. Evan and Lila had already lived through one messy parental breakup. Was I about to give them another? That weekend, Danielle asked me to meet her at a coffee shop downtown, neutral ground. I agreed. When I walked in, she was already there, tapping her nails against a mug she hadn't touched. The moment I sat down, the tears started, not loud sobbing, but that silent, wet-eyed crying where someone's trying to hold it together and failing. I don't want to lose you, Marcus, she said, voice cracking. But I don't know how to give you what you're asking for. I leaned back, arms crossed. What I'm asking for is simple. Partnership. Respect. A say in the household I'm carrying. You either want to build something with me, or you want a safety net. Which is it? She stared at me, silent. Then, in almost a whisper, she said, I don't know how to let someone else in without feeling like I'm giving up control. There it was. The truth I'd been waiting to hear. I told her I wasn't asking for control. I was asking for balance. That if she wanted me in her kids' lives, I needed more than financial obligation. I needed trust. We sat there for an hour, circling the same arguments. Eventually, she said, I need time. I gave her one last ultimatum. Take all the time you need. But I'm not moving back in until I see actual change. Not promises. Action. The next week, Danielle went nuclear. And of course, Marissa was in the middle of it. One night I got a long, scathing text from Danielle accusing me of abandoning her children and making them feel like they're just expenses on a spreadsheet. The language was so pointed, so rehearsed, I knew instantly it was Marissa's voice. 2 days later, Marissa herself showed up at my hotel lobby. I don't even know how she found out where I was staying. She marched up to me, wagging her finger like a school principal, and hissed loud enough for half the lobby to hear, You don't get to play house with a single mom and then run the second it gets real. Grow up, Marcus. Be a man. I didn't yell. I didn't engage. I just turned and walked away, but inside I was boiling. Marissa had become a parasite in our relationship, and Danielle was letting it happen. One night, back at the hotel, I found an envelope slid under my door. Inside were 2 folded sheets of notebook paper. One from Evan, one from Lila. Evan's was short, in the messy handwriting of an 11-year-old boy. Marcus, why aren't you home? Mama's sad. Lila cries a lot. Did we do something wrong? Please come back. Lila's broke me. I miss pancakes. I miss when you helped me with my projects. Mommy says you don't want to live with us. Is that true? If you don't, can I still see you? I sat on the edge of the bed holding those letters, and for the first time since leaving, I cried, not out of anger. Out of grief, because I realized that no matter what happened with Danielle, those kids had carved a place in my life, and walking away wouldn't be clean. I went back to the house that weekend, not to move in, but to talk. Danielle was guarded, defensive at first. But when I showed her the letters from the kids, her whole demeanor cracked. I don't want to lose you, she said again, quieter this time. But I don't know how to stop sabotaging things when I feel cornered. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't just about money or parenting roles. Danielle had wounds deeper than I could fix alone. Control was her shield, and every time I pushed for partnership, she mistook it for someone trying to take that shield away. So I told her plainly, Danielle, I love you. I care about Evan and Lila like they're my own. But unless you're willing to go to therapy, with me, or even on your own, nothing will change. We'll just keep repeating this cycle until one of us finally walks for good. She didn't answer right away. But for the first time in months, she didn't deflect. She didn't blame Marissa. She just nodded slowly, tears sliding down her face. It's been a month since that conversation. Danielle agreed to start counseling. We've gone to 2 sessions together so far. It's awkward, painful, and messy. She hates being vulnerable in front of a stranger, but she's trying. I still haven't fully moved back in. I spend weekends there, sleep in the spare room when I do. The kids light up when I show up at the door, and it kills me to leave again Sunday night. Part of me wonders if I'm prolonging the inevitable, that Danielle will slip back into old habits, that Marissa will whisper poison in her ear again, that resentment will rebuild. But another part of me sees glimmers of hope. She's showing up to therapy. She's clocking in at her job every day. She's not perfect, far from it, but she's finally admitting she can't do this alone. And maybe, just maybe, that's the start of something real. The 3rd therapy session was when I knew. Danielle sat across from me, arms folded tight, eyes narrowed, not at me, but at the therapist. Every question that required vulnerability was met with deflection. Every suggestion for compromise was twisted into a complaint about what I wasn't doing. The therapist finally asked her, "Danielle, can you name one way Marcus has supported you this past year?" There was a long silence. She opened her mouth, shut it again, and finally muttered, "He pays the bills." That was it. Not the nights I stayed up with Evan when he was sick. Not the school projects I helped Lila with. Not the years of shouldering rent, groceries, utilities, while she drifted between jobs. Just, he pays the bills. Something inside me cracked that day, not with anger, but clarity. After the session, Danielle wanted to grab lunch. I told her no. I went back to the hotel, packed my bag, and drove straight to the house. The kids were out with Teresa. Danielle was upstairs. I walked into the bedroom, opened the closet, and started pulling out the last of my things. She came in as I was zipping my suitcase. "What are you doing?" she asked, voice sharp. "Finishing what I should have done weeks ago," I said. Her face hardened. "So that's it? You're just going to walk out? After everything I've been through, after everything I've given you?" I laughed, a bitter, exhausted laugh. "Given me? Danielle, I've been carrying this family on my back while you pushed me away at every turn. And I still tried. I still fought for this. But I'm done fighting for someone who sees me as nothing more than a paycheck." She started crying, grabbing at my arm. "Don't do this, Marcus. Please. The kids." I pulled away gently. "The kids deserve stability, and they'll get it. From me in a way that doesn't involve living in a war zone." I left her standing there, tears streaking down her face, and walked out. Marissa was the first to call, of course. Her voice was laced with venom. "You coward. You don't just walk out on a family when they need you. Do you know what this will do to Danielle? To the kids?" I let her rant. Then I said calmly, "Marissa, this was never your relationship. And it's not your responsibility to save it or sabotage it. I'm done letting you have a say in my life." And I hung up, for good. 2 days later, I met Evan and Lila at the park. Teresa brought them. Danielle stayed home. They ran up to me, arms wide, both talking at once. I hugged them so tight I thought my chest might crack. We sat on a bench, and I told them the truth, at least the child-friendly version. "I won't be living at the house anymore, but I love you both, and that's not going to change. I'll still be here for you, just in a different way." Evan's eyes welled up, but he nodded bravely. Lila burst into tears, clutching my hand. I promised them pancakes every Saturday morning, school project help whenever they needed, and a seat at every soccer game and recital. I wasn't divorcing them, even if I was walking away from their mother. It broke my heart, but it also freed me. I found a small apartment across town, nothing fancy, but quiet, mine. The first night, I sat on the floor eating takeout straight from the container, staring at the bare walls. For the first time in years, I wasn't drowning in someone else's chaos. No slammed doors, no constant tension, no unpaid bills piling up because someone quit another job. Just silence. Peace. It felt strange, it felt lonely, but it also felt right. I heard through Teresa that Danielle spiraled after I left. She called out of work, spent days in bed, cried in front of the kids, telling them I'd abandoned her. The old me would have rushed back, guilt-ridden, trying to fix it. But not this time. This time I stood firm. I had given her every chance, offered therapy, offered partnership, drew boundaries. She chose to burn every bridge until there was nothing left. Months passed, slowly. Life rebuilt itself. My evenings weren't battlegrounds anymore. My paychecks stretched further without bailing out someone else's irresponsibility. And most importantly, I began to remember who I was outside of Danielle's shadow. The man who loved tinkering with old radios in the garage. The man who laughed easily with friends without feeling guilty for being happy. The man who could sit in his own home without feeling like a stranger. For years, I thought cutting Danielle off would feel like failure, but it didn't. It felt like survival. Looking back, I don't regret trying. I don't regret loving Danielle or being there for Evan and Lila. They gave me purpose during years when I needed it most, but I also don't regret walking away. Because sometimes, the bravest thing a man can do isn't to keep fighting for a broken home. It's to put down the weight, step out of the fire, and choose peace. That's what I did, and I'll never apologize for it.